Hello there, YouTube. Now, I'm well aware that most of my audience by default will be American, and this is going to piss off a lot of Americans. But today we're talking about constitutions, particularly the Americans' constitution, because they seem to worship it, and I do not use that term lightly. It's getting ridiculous when left, right, in between, whatever, the first word of complaint that comes out about anything you don't like is unconstitutional. Well, I come from a country, Britain, that doesn't have a constitution.
Does Magna Carta mean nothing to you? Did she die in vain? Brave Hungarian peasant girl who forced King John to sign the pledge at Runnymede and closed the boozers at 10:30.
Well, Tony Hancock there does have a point. We do have the Magna Carta, which is not really a constitution as such, but it is the first example of rule of law being... It's not the first example of modern Western democracy at all. There is no mention of giving any power to common people. The only thing that it really started to establish was right to a fair trial, which is about it. There's nothing else in there about anything of significance, because it was just a treaty to end a protracted civil war between King John and his lords. It's not a constitution, and it is occasionally lauded as something that it isn't, which is annoying, but it's not nearly as annoying as how the Americans seem to go, "Ooh, constitution this, constitution that." Really, in my opinion, the problem with American politics isn't so much that they're breaking constitution. It's more that a typical sort of meeting of Congress or the Senate will look something like this.
Of the Roman Senate, hear me. Shall we continue to build palace after palace for the rich? Or shall we aspire to a more noble purpose and build decent housing for the poor? How does the Senate vote?
Fuck the poor!
Good.
Yeah, I think that just about sums it up. Your problem over there isn't adhering to some 18th century bill of law that, well, frankly, look at the 18th century. It was a time where you could get hanged for pickpocketing a shilling, or stealing from a rabbit warren, or impersonating a Chelsea pensioner. Yeah, seriously, I've got a whole book on that. But yeah, it's very strange to me that you hold these standards as completely... You look at the people who wrote them. They were all... Well, most of them were slave owners. And contrary to what most American schools teach, the real reason behind the Boston Tea Party that started the whole thing up wasn't us raising taxes. No, it was us lowering taxes. We lowered the tax on tea following demands from various colonial authorities because they had a smuggling problem. The idea was that they would bankrupt the smugglers. Unfortunately, the smugglers were also some very important people who could raise a mob very quickly. And these smugglers raised the mob and had them chuck all the tea over the side of the ship to protect their monopoly, their illegal monopoly. Yeah, you got a lot of parallels with today there. It's really not a question of adhering to those rules. I find the very concept of a immutable constitution ridiculous. I mean, this may just be because I'm from a country without one, but this is humanity, morals, society, everything changes. What's acceptable now may not be acceptable in the future, and vice versa. It's a constantly fluid system, and you can't just say, "Oh, the founding fathers wouldn't want this. The founding fathers wouldn't want." You can't go back in time and talk to them about the issue and give them the full even if you did, you'd have to give them the full context of what is happening, and assuming their brains don't explode there and then, through the sheer insanity of it all, you may have a very different answer to what you're expecting. I mean, after all, those of on the American right who want to basically establish religion, trust me, you don't want to do that. We've got a Church of England. I'm a member of that Church of England, funnily enough. But when it was, well, it is still established technically, but most people ignore that it is established. Although we now have a ridiculous thing where a normally either agnostic or atheist prime minister has to select all the bishops, has to give the final clear on all the bishops, which is ludicrous. He doesn't know the first thing about theology. He's a politician. He's normally not even a churchgoer, not even a Christian. So what gives him the right to select our bishops? It's just ridiculous. But yeah, I'm fully in favour of the separation of church and state, and that when you're talking about unconstitutional, in that you are heading towards a theocracy, which I really think America is. Yeah, I can see your point. Don't just say unconstitutional, because that's beside the point. The point is that these people want to impose their very strange interpretation of the Bible upon everybody. And they want a United Christian States of America, or Christian in open commas, because open quotes, because it's about as far from Christ. This is another thing. If these Republicans were given a time machine and they were to go back in time to speak to Jesus Christ, I have a feeling. I mean, he wasn't a violent man, but he probably punched them in the face. This is, I think, a better argument, other than saying this is unconstitutional. It's a 18th century law that really, why should that be the standard? What the standard is, what is right now, and what is right now is that America remains secular. America actually gets its fingers out of its arse and does something for its massive economic divide. I mean, I'd be down in the Occupy protests if I could travel, but because our government doesn't do too good a job at that either. Or better than America, but not too good a job still. But yeah, they've got to sort this massive economic divide. The fact that they're owing billions to people, the fact that they're randomly attacking countries that happen to be Muslim, in for no particular rhyme or reason, which is pissing everybody off in the Islamic world, as it would. They really need to stop being the UCSA and start going back to the USA, and that's my view. Do leave comments. Do let me know what you think, and if I've completely gone off the beaten track here. Thank you.